ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Breakfast Bankroll. Good friend and colleague, Mr. Scotty Webb. We're changing it up. We're throwing some curveballs, some little eephus pitches. Life got busy yesterday. Had to change some shows, so we're going to push myself and Scotty to Wednesday and follow not an abbreviated show, but I have Andrew McGinnis coming on at 10:15 as he got bumped as well to talk some hockey and Grey Cup. So me and Scotty will be on for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we'll be back on Thursday and Friday. So you got a lot of action on a MACTION Wednesday. So let's buckle up and stay tuned there. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber Hawley, Carol Bucks, Matthew Allen. The list is endless. I had a great time working with Travis, Matthew, and Allen yesterday for a couple hours. The Whip Around episode number 4. I think it's debuting on Friday. So love those guys. Blessed to be a part of them. And look forward to 2026 and more. And of course, LandisSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wines. Terry's got it all. It's 'tis the season with Thanksgiving and Christmas around the corner. Let Terry take care of all your house parties and office parties, whatever it may be. Terry does wonders at LandisSteaksAndSeafood.com. Without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, Scott?
What's up, brother?
I have to laugh, Scotty, because social media, I guess I don't even want to say you love it or hate it, because at this point I despise most of it. I kind of stay in my lanes. I stay off of it as much as possible. As you know, and a couple other people, some big things brewing backstage here 6 weeks from now, debuting January 1st, 2026. So we're going to get in, get out, do our job, and get the hell out of Dodge. But baseball, huge Grayson Rodriguez fan. Huge Grayson Rodriguez fan. Coming up in diapers. My buddy identified him. Kid is not solid. He's been injured the last couple of years, and it's kind of funny how they're spinning social media, how the Angels fleeced the Orioles. I see it the other way around. I'm at this point, I don't think Grayson can stay healthy, and I think the Orioles fleeced the Angels for Mr. Ward.
Yeah, I don't know that I really recall a lot of young pitchers like Grayson Rodriguez, of that ilk anyway, who theoretically he was going to be their, number one, number two guy for Baltimore. And I think when we first saw him, we go, oh wow, he's got a lot of fastball, he's got pretty good stuff, moves real well. But he was never really more than a 500 pitcher when he pitched. I don't mean that in any disrespect. I mean, you learn things when you're young. You learn and grow as your talent gets better, and you understand what you can do with your pitches and how you can get out. So that's not a disrespectful comment. But I think then he got hurt. He tried to come back. He's pitched a little bit off and on. I think that they got their ace. They got Rogers from Miami, and that's the guy they want. So they looked at it and go, what's wrong with our team? We don't have any power. And I would say that 2 years ago that was a very powerful offense. But last year the Santander wasn't there, and some of the guys didn't have as good a seasons as they've had in the past, and a lot of those guys were hurt. So they wanted a home run bat, and I don't blame them. And Ward's a home run bat. He's not he's an RBI guy, and they need all of that. So my opinion is going to be that the Angels need a young pitcher. So they can take a chance with a young pitcher like him, and see if he can come around and do anything productive for them. I don't recall that they're a team that really develops pitching because, I don't think they do. They don't develop their staff. So we'll see how that works out for him, and how it works out for the Angels. But my interpretation of the trade is probably decent for both sides. And there's no way that Grayson Rodriguez is anything. I don't want to say the word. He's not as valuable as what everybody's making him out to be. Let's put it that way. And the reality becomes is that I think the Angels did just fine in this deal. I mean, and I think the Orioles actually made out probably pretty good, especially compared to what they need in terms of how their team needs to play and win games, because they still got to catch the Rays in the division. They got to catch the Orioles. I mean, they finished last. So when you finish last, you got to catch them all. So they're going to need some offense to do that. And look, I'm not going to be surprised to see Rushman be gone out of that team. So I think they'll probably get rid of Rushman, and because they got that other kid, I forget what his name is now, but they brought up that their catcher of the future. He's there. He's not going anywhere. That kid's there. So Rushman's got nowhere to play, and offensive.
He does. Fenway Park. I heard that the kid, they're gonna maybe do some DH first base. Adley's here to stay, but listen, I'm going to go pick him up, and I'm going to drive him to Fenway Park. Oh, my God, can you imagine Adley Rushman at Fenway Park? Sign me up. I'm going to go one more step, and then we're going to dive into the football. The light bulb came on last night, and I'm thinking, the big names that are out there, Alonso, is Alex Bregman coming back? The Sox going to make a move via trade for a pitcher. And where the season started, Scotty, and how it finished, I'm going to use Tristan Campbell as an example. He was the next coming. He was homegrown. The Red Sox front office and brass did the duck boats and parades. This is our guy. We're giving him the extension. Played second for 6 weeks or whatever. Been at Worcester the rest of the year. Blah blah blah. Now going to play outfield. That's why Duran and Abreu again is one of them is going to get traded, because we're going to find a spot for Campbell in the outfield. Bregman, another year older. We've already paid him $40. Boris Client. The light bulb came on, Scotty. Trevor Story opted in, so we got him for 2 more years. We know we have Marcelo Myers. I'm going to use the word tongue-in-cheek, often injured at this point. I'm not saying he's injury-prone, but he's been injured a few times. Why not go after Bo Bichette? Can put him in at second, can put him in at short when Trevor's hurt, and he's young enough. I'm not saying he'll ever become Alex Bregman, but maybe he could end up being that face that you're looking for and will solidify the middle of the infield.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Bo Bichette's upside is yet, in terms of where he's going to play. Like, he's a shortstop. Was a shortstop all for his whole careers, until he got hurt, and then he came back and didn't have a different place to play because the shortstop that they had was he bats ninth for it's the guy they got from Cleveland. I forget his name, but anyway, he didn't get to play shortstop because it's a pretty taxing position. So they put him at second base. I don't know how open he is to being a second baseman. I don't know that anybody's really come right out and said, "Oh yeah, he'll go play second base." I don't know if anybody's talked to him and had that conversation. So his value to a team is he's a contact hitter. He does have a little pop. He's not the biggest home run hitter in the world, but he's got a little bit of pop. And he hits for average. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? Look, a team like, I'm just going to say it this way because it might make a little more sense. A team like the Yankees, who just go up there and hit home runs and win games because they hit home runs, need guys that can get on base for the home runs. So a guy like Bo Bichette would be a great asset to the Yankees because he can get on base in front of those guys. But in terms of what Bo Bichette can provide in terms of, firepower himself, I don't think he's really that kind of guy. So the other problem, and I don't think it's a problem, I just don't know what his mindset is about second base. Look, and the reason I say this is because when you're a shortstop, you think you're the god of all baseball players. And I'm not kidding. You're the shortstop, you're the god of all baseball players, or a center fielder. A lot of center fielders think that way. And if you get moved off that spot, oh my God, it's like you got castrated or something. It's that way. I mean, these guys have this ego thing. And I get it. Look, shortstop's in a critical position. It's an extremely important spot. And to move off of that spot, there's way more involved in that than just, hey, I'm going to go play second base.
Well, and the Red Sox, again, big year last year, trending in the right direction. Obviously, Toronto had a big year. Yankees were the Yankees. A very tough decision with your tough division with your Rays, and then Baltimore in the rear. We used to win baseball games up the middle, catcher, shortstop, second base, and center field. That equation is gone nowadays. But again, thinking outside the box, because I don't think there's a lot of teams knocking down Bregman's door. And I talked to a few people in the know that the Sox are willing to give him the 180 or whatever he's looking for, less the 40 that we gave you last year, Alex. Sure, we'll give you the 180. We gave you 40 last year, so here's your 140. They're not going to get dragged underneath in the mud here for Bregman. If you don't want to be here, hey, God, we paid you $40 million a damn year. There's no one else running the window, Scotty, to pay this guy $40 million a year.
No, and he's not getting any younger. And productivity-wise, he's probably at his peak. He's not going to get better. He's going to be sustaining what he's got and diminish. So I don't know what his value is going to be to anybody. But they're baseball players, and it's not even so much the baseball player, to be honest. It's the guys that run them in terms of their agent. Their agent's going to fight and negotiate and do everything they can for every contract they can get, and I don't blame them. And that's the way it is. So that's not the worst thing in the world to go fight for your guy and get him money and and see what happens at the end. But sometimes that stuff backfires. I mean, Boris's contracts the last few years haven't been the best for baseball team players. So, and he gambled with some of those pitchers. Remember a couple of years ago, those guys didn't get contracts until the season started and stuff, and then all their arms broke off, and nobody wants anybody. So, it's interesting to see how this is going to play out. But I was interested. Look, I was surprised, probably as anybody, to see Grayson Rodriguez's name in there. When you see a young kid like that in a lot of spots, like, a lot of times, people go, what the hell is going on? But, the truth of the matter is you got to shake shit up. If you want to change the dynamics of your team, and then you got to move players. You got to get rid of the status quo and you got to bring in something else, or you got to do something different. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what teams are going to do what. I was totally shocked that I saw news and notes that the Pittsburgh Pirates were in on some of these players. Like, I don't know how well they're in on them, but I mean, the Pittsburgh Pirates don't spend any money. So, you're talking about they're in on Josh Naylor, and they're talking about negotiations for Kyle Schwarber. The Pittsburgh Pirates, for God's sakes. Well, if you think about it, that division is wide open. I mean, that division they play in is wide open. And if you were to get a couple of decent bats, and I don't mean decent, I mean good, and you got to pay these people, and you got them in there to go with that pitching staff that they got. I think that wouldn't be a whole lot to sit there and go, hey, we're going to win. To be honest, you got Skeens in there, and that kid, I forget what his name is. The kid throws 100 miles an hour. His arm got hurt, so he didn't pitch much last year, but he's really their number two. And I think, as you start to look at what Pittsburgh's got, and they got a couple of kids coming up, I think the O'Neill Cruz and this other kid, the shortstop coming up for them. They could be a team that really explodes on the scene if they spent money. They're going to have to go spend the money. I mean, can you imagine a team like that brings in a couple of big bats, Kyle Schwarber there, and a couple other guys that can really hit to go with that pitching staff? And,
You froze up, Scotty. See if you have to.
there we go.
There we go.
So I just think that division's very winnable. The teams in that division have not done anything. The Cincinnati Reds have already said they're not going to go spend any much more money than they already have. So that's disappointing, because the reality is they got the pitching staff to be able to do it too. They just don't have any offense. They have a superstar in Ellie De La Cruz, and they can't surround him with other players. It's just horrible. And then you got the Cubs, who could go spend the money to go do what they need to do. And then what do? They go bring in, Quintanas of the world and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? You go get the right players to make an impact and make a difference, So I look, I'm not going to tell you the Pirates are going to go win anything, but I will say they have the makings of a pretty decent team. And if they were to get, 2 or 3 good bats, holy shit, and they went and spent the money, I would fall out of my chair and go, oh my God, what is going on? I'd have to go watch them down here in Bradenton play spring training, for God's sakes.
2 games in the MAC tonight. Miami at Buffalo. Miami of Ohio, that is. Buffalo opens up at 2 with a 39.5. Currently at the Circa. Good morning, Mr. Benson, Mr. Stevens. A flip. Miami of Ohio now -2.5, -15 cents. Next move could be to 3 with a 40. And Central Michigan travels to Kent State. Central Michigan opened up at 8 with a 47.5. Currently 8 with a 50. Monday Night Football, Buffalo travels to Houston. C.J. Stroud announced out again for the third straight week. Buffalo opened 2.5 with a 43, now 6 with a 43.5. And you got UL Lafayette against Arkansas State also on Thursday night. Right now, Arkansas State opened at a 3, now 2.5 with a 54. Any of those jump out that you want to break down, or is there a certain game today? Because we'll be back tomorrow with in-pocket plays, and Friday. Is there a game on the board you'd like to break down today?
Well, let me say this. I was having a tough time yesterday because games on paper were down the whole day because I guess there was a Cloudflare stupid. I don't know what it's called. Something like that. Some kind of cloud thing blew up and nobody's websites worked and their website didn't work. And holy shit, that's how I do my football game. So I need that data. So it's up and running today. So I've been working on a lot of things this morning. And really I was putting Saturday together because, this is a tough week in terms of like going out and finding games you really like to watch. It doesn't look like it's going to be tough to find bettable spots. I mean, looking at what I'm looking at, it's pretty good. Now, I was on Western Michigan last night. Now, I've been having, I don't want to call myself this MAC guy because I'm really not. I just know this. I'm from Ohio. I grew up there when I was a high school kid. I played at some of these places that these guys are at and stuff. So I'm very familiar with the MAC. That said, though, some of these games are important, some of them aren't. And what I'm going to try to teach people is if you're going to bet the MAC, only bet games that matter. Don't bet games that don't, because if they don't matter in terms of standings and winning and getting to the point where you get playoff implications or bowl game implications, anything can happen in the MAC. That's why they call it MACtion and craziness and all the other stuff. It's because so be careful what you bet on. So that said, when I look at the board today, the only game that matters, and I know Miami and Buffalo are up there in the standings and stuff, but the only game that matters is Central Michigan's game. Central Michigan owns tiebreakers. So how do I say this right? So if you look at, I'll just pull it up. I have it right here. College football standings. Let's refresh it because of last night's game. MAC. So Western Michigan is 6-1 in the MAC. Ohio won last night, so they're 5-2. Central Michigan's 4-2. Toledo's 4-2. Buffalo's 4-2. Miami's 4-2. Western Michigan is essentially, with the win last night, assured themselves a spot to play for the MAC championship. That's why I bet that game. I knew it was important to them, and of course they get behind 13-0, and I'm kicking myself, going, "What the hell is going on with this team?" But that's what happened with Northern Illinois in a lot of their games. In a lot of their games, I don't know if they have scripted plays or whatever it is, that they get off to a decent start, and then all of a sudden they can't do anything. But it was a blowout by the end of the game. And then, so Ohio wins. But what I want to tell everybody is tiebreaker wise, and there's a lot, and I already did this through AI and all this stuff. So tiebreaker wise, Central Michigan owns them all. So if Central Michigan wins this game tonight, they're in the driver's seat to be the second team. So this is an important game for them, and they're playing Kent State, for God's sakes. Kent State's terrible. So I'm not saying Central Michigan's a great team, don't get me wrong. And the other problem that I have with this game is it's up to 9.5. It was like, I think 7.5 or something like that. So then it brought, I think it came back down to 8, maybe 8.5, something like that. So I don't care about the 8 or the 8.5. Look, if you pull that game up on games on paper, for example, and you look at this numbers for Central Michigan is 73rd in EPA, and Kent State is 116th. They're terrible. Their success rate is 128. Available yards is 136. When you look at it, like Central Michigan's got a bad offense. They got a bad offense, but Kent State's defense is so bad it's going to make Central Michigan's offense look good. And then Central Michigan's got a decent defense, and Kent State's got no offense. So I think this is a game that turns out to a, oh my God, I gotta watch this crap kind of stuff, and then it turns into over the course of the game, little things add up. This adds up, that adds up. Central Michigan wins by 10 or 13 or whatever the number is, and they cover the number, and they get the win they have to have, because I think if I look at this right, their game next week I think is against Toledo. They play Toledo next week. They're not going to beat Toledo. Toledo's on a run, and Toledo is they're demolishing teams right now, so they won't beat Toledo. So this is a big game for Central Michigan tonight. Toledo loses some of these tiebreakers to these teams, and that's why it's going to be. They need some help to get in. So this Miami game that we're looking at is the other possibility for tonight, and I know that there was a flip in the line. I think Buffalo opened as the favorite. Now Miami's the favorite. The one thing that always drives me crazy about these MAC teams is most of them don't play offense. And here you go again. You got two teams here where the offense for Miami is ranked 85th, and the Buffalo offense is 121st. But just think about it this way: the defense for Buffalo is 61, the defense for Miami is 54. But I think you're in a spot here where how do you go and say Miami should be the favorite in a spot where these teams are about even? Looking at my spreadsheet, but my spreadsheet says my spreadsheet says that Miami is minus 1.2 yards per point margin. Buffalo's minus 0.7. Miami is slightly worse in that situation, which means they're slightly less efficient. They have a little bit better, I shouldn't say little, they got a bigger turnover margin edge. And Buffalo's quarterback's not even rated in the QBR, so they got all kinds of different quarterbacks playing. So I think this is just this is a coin flip. And I think people going to say, hey, I recognize Miami, Ohio. I know their name. I think we should bet on them. Could be part of some of this situation. I don't know. I'm not betting either one of these two games tonight. I'm certainly not betting Arkansas State and whoever they play, Arkansas State and Louisiana. Louisiana is one of the worst teams in college football. They're not the worst, but they're one of them. And I'm not betting that game. I haven't really done the Friday games yet because I'm not sure I'm interested in those. It's interesting that I think UNLV is probably the right side in that game against Hawaii. Hawaii just had a good home win against San Diego State. Then they're off a bye. Now they got to come to the States, and they got to play UNLV. UNLV is a great offense. See kind of how that kind of plays out when you look at games on paper on that game. You're going to see a lot of UNLV green for offense. But you're going to see that they can't defend anything. They're a bad defense. So I haven't run that through the system yet to give me an outcome of what that looks like. But I do think that travel for Hawaii is a problem. I think they play much better on the island. I think that they play much worse on the when they have to travel to the States. So, and I think that UNLV plays great at home. So I think that all kind of lines up for them. But does it really matter? Is it good enough to cover the 3 points? I don't know. So I wasn't interested in a lot of these games. I was kind of interested in Central Michigan when it was more around a touchdown. I don't want to have to be covering 10. And remember, you got to cover 10 on the road. and these MAC teams aren't very good. So it's just not good except for Toledo. Toledo's pretty good. So I think what surprised me though, Jeff, on this stuff was looking at like the top 10 bet list that I've got going on right this minute. We're talking about teams like Tennessee, Miami University, Washington, and I don't think people are talking about these games. I think people are talking about the Oklahoma game and stuff like that. And well, is Ohio State going to cover 30 when they got Michigan next week? Well, I can tell you the system that I have sits there and says, hey, you should be betting Maryland next week. Maryland should cover the 14 points or 13 and a half against Michigan. Look, Michigan's got 2 running backs that aren't playing. It's a week where there's a possibility of a look ahead for them. They already can't cover margins. Look at what they did against Northwestern and some of these other schools that they play. They're tight, closer games. So this is on the road at Maryland. Maryland's got a halfway decent defense. They have inconsistent offense. Their quarterback's actually a freshman, just like the quarterback from Michigan. But I think when you think about that matchup, and some of the stuff, it's an interesting week. I have found lots of different spots that I didn't think I was going to find. I thought, for example, USC might be a good spot against Oregon. My system says, no, you should be betting on Oregon. That should be one of the things you should be doing. But that comes in 8 out of 10. I don't bet 8 bets. So it's not going to be on my list. So as I'm going, I keep refining and going and figuring out where I'm going to end up. And I also thought it was interesting that of all these games I put in the system, it looks to me like there's a lot of kind of overs. My computer comes back and I said, hey, look, you gave me all sides this week. Yeah, did you forget there was totals involved? And then he comes back and goes, nope, I didn't tell you. I didn't think that way. They don't make the list. In fact, the totals are the 15th best bet on the sheet this week. And I'm like, holy shit, that's not very good. So I'm like, okay, whatever. It's all good. I mean, you tell me what we're doing. And I will also say this, because I didn't have any of this stuff working yesterday, and I'm not feeling the greatest anymore. I spent a lot of time working on basketball yesterday, Jeff. And I had Michigan State. I was like, yeah. I was like, look, things are turning. I'm getting things ready to go for basketball. I'm about ready to start running some basketball shit.
Well, big game in stores tonight as standing room only. It is a sellout as Arizona travels to UConn. I think I saw about a 5.5 point. Let me see exact number here. Where are we? Survey said UConn opened at 5, up to 6.5 for the 157. I've seen some of the UConn games. They had the Saturday against a real good BYU team. They were up 20, let them back in. BYU covers there. So interesting there. Glad to hear, obviously, you're working. It's that time of year as we're getting winding down from the college football. Big weeks next week. A lot of rivalry games on Thanksgiving weekend as the bowl and the final 12 are matching up. We'll have the title games before you know it. And then we'll be sprinkling in some college hoop games as well. Breaking news when we get it in baseball. Closing thoughts, sir.
Yeah, keep an eye on baseball this year. I think you and I will be doing some baseball shows just because there's going to be all kinds of stuff and chaos and stuff happening. The winter meetings will be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of activity there. There's just so many players available. So as there's so many players available, the changing in the dynamics of here's a good exercise for everybody. This is what I would tell everybody to do right now is go on Fangraphs and go look at the projections to what the winning how many games you're going to win. It's there. It's going to say that it was last year's numbers, but it's not. They're this year's numbers. And I tell you to do that and get a screen print of that, print it somewhere, put it someplace, because as these teams start making moves and start adding and deleting and changing players, you're going to see that change. And as that changes, you can then start to learn a little bit about what the value of those guys and the moves are to actually winning, instead of just going, oh, look, my lineup's a lot better now, or this, that, or the other thing, right? Because, you do stuff to win games, and you do stuff to make your team better than your opponent's teams and win divisions and win titles and stuff. So I would advise that's one of the greatest exercises that you can do. And there's going to be a ton of baseball players moved. And what you thought you knew as a baseball conference or the league was looking like for these teams, look, just be open-minded, because we just talked about the Pittsburgh Pirates, for God's sakes. And if they go do the stuff they're talking about doing, they're going to be right in the mix. So, if I would have never have said that, but if they're going to go spend the money and they're going to do the stuff, how many other teams are going to do that? How many other teams are not? And you've been talking about, the labor problem that you're going to have, not this year, but the following year. And I don't think teams are going to give a shit about that. They're just going to go for it this year. So if they're going to go for it this year and not care about that, then hey, they're all in. And I'm, just looking at what the Baltimore Orioles just did. That I don't want to say it's gutsy, but that's the possibility of, going and saying, hey, fan base, I know you like Grayson Rodriguez, but this is what we need, and we're going to go get what we need. And the cost of getting what we need is Grayson Rodriguez, but he's used goods. So if somebody finds a retread to put on him and make him good, then hey, it's all well. So I think baseball is going to be that way. I'm not sure what's going to, you know what I think the other funny thing about baseball is that looking at the people that signed the qualifying offers, there were 4 guys that signed the qualifying offers, and of the history of the qualifying offers, I think through the whole history of I don't remember how far back it goes. It might be like 15 years. It's not that long. I think there's been like 170 guys that have qualifying offers or whatever, and not including these 4 guys. But I think there was like, I don't know, 8 of those 150 guys signed qualifying offers. And then this year, 4 of them did. I think, and now the Yankees are out there going, God damn, Trent Grisham signed this qualifying offer. I don't know what we're going to do with our outfielders now, because we were going to bring Spencer Jones in, and now we can't bring Spencer Jones in because now we got this guy that's got to play because he's getting $22 million. I'm like, some of these guys, it's a nightmare for some of this stuff. So that was an interesting thing too. I thought was nuts. And you saw I don't know how much people are following baseball, but there was a lot of roster moves yesterday, a ton. And the reason for that is the Rule 5 draft is like in the next day or two. I don't remember what day it is. So they're they're putting guys from their minor league systems on the 40-man rosters to protect them from getting Rule 5 drafted. So that's why, like, the Rays got rid of Christopher Morel and stuff like that. They got room for that guy. They got to protect some other guys, so they got to get rid of somebody. So Christopher Morel, see ya, put this other guy on there. So that's what's going on in Major League Baseball. So it's interesting to see how a lot of this stuff happens and how it flows. And I don't know what people are paying attention to, but there's a lot going to happen in Major League Baseball this year.
Myself and Andrew will be back in about 14 minutes. Me and Scotty will be here tomorrow on Thursday in Pocket Plays. We'll break down the Buffalo-Houston game, and then we'll be back again on Friday at around 9:15, 9:30-ish there. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB, we want to bless everyone today. It's hump day. Enjoy yourselves and stay tuned.